flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Roll call. Let's go ahead. Go through a roll. Wayne Baker.
Yes, I.
Chris, here. Randy,
Here.
Dan, here. Scott,
Here.
nice to see you here.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I've been absent, but I do enjoy being on the Zoom, on the
Thanks.
Yeah,
Zoom board.
it's nice having your input.
I'll be more talkative here than I was on camera.
Okay, and we will not have Kurt here today.
Correct.
So, Santos is here, Doug's here. Okay, so let's go to approval of agenda. Everybody got a copy of it?
On the new business, we need to add discussion of Brett's memo.
Or we just called that C.
In addition to that, I move we approve the agenda.
We have a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda's all approved, everything's good. Approval of the minutes from the July 13th meeting.
Just so you guys know, I did make one modification to the minutes. I added the time and date that it took place.
Approved the 13th.
Correct. From the last meeting.
This is a copy for Lynn and Dan to sign.
So I move we approve the agenda. What was the date? That's
Oh, the minutes for July 13th.
July 13th.
That's Doug's signature. Okay,
You need a vote on that. You had a first and a second.
okay, do we have any comments or questions on that? Approval of the 13th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Old business. Discuss infrastructure development plan.
Okay, so, from our charter, we had put in there that we were gonna develop an infrastructure development plan. And, I have been working on it. I've got it outlined, but I do not have much more than that done yet, other than the outline. And there's a few things that I wanted to get input from the committee. You know, I've done primarily the road section, putting most of it together. I've not done much with the water. I've not done much with the solid waste, and I've not done much with the sewers because I don't have a lot of information on that. I need to go sit down with Kurt one day and get information on that. But as far as the roads, there was a couple of sections that I was putting in there. And some of it ties back to the comments that Scott had sent out. On Title VII, I guess. And, we'll be going over those, later on down here. But some of the things that I put in there is, the roads, the washboarding and the damages to the roads are caused primarily by speed and weight of the vehicles. Right, so some of the things that we could look at doing is, two of the main things that I've gotten from other locations is, reducing the speed limit for vehicles over 10,000 pounds GVW or vehicles pulling trailers. Because if you reduce that speed limit for them, then they do a lot less damage to the roads. And another thing that we can look at is when building permits are applied for, if we could put a surcharge in there for damages to the roads or repair to the roads. Because I think Chris's input is primarily that most of the damage up around his area is caused by the construction traffic, and the construction traffic moving pretty fast and taking heavy loads up there. And also there's, I actually came nose to nose with a logging truck the other day on one of the community roads. So if there's some way, and I mean, I haven't put this into the plan yet, this is just some of the stuff that I've been looking at and researching. But if there's any input on maybe a surcharge to building permits for the construction traffic, and it could be based on the value of the permit pretty easily, and that could go into a fund to do road repairs. We're also lowering that speed limit for the larger heavy vehicles. So those are two of the things that I've been putting into that plan. The other thing that I'm putting into the plan is, last month we had input from the gentleman that worked on, I can't remember what his name was, that had worked on the Go bonds back in 2016. And those are all identified projects in there. And I know that some of them have been done, some of them have not been done. But I was gonna list all of those in there as possible projects, and also list all of the projects that have been identified on the ICIP, because those are identified projects as well. So once we get a catalog of those, you know, we can start really building some criteria around them. So that's where I'm at, Chuck. Sorry I didn't bring in the paper with me, but it was not a whole lot to look at today. I will get it done.
That's a good start.
Yes,
Yes.
and back to what you were talking with the surcharges. I feel that there should be a restriction on tractor trailer. You know, 10-wheeler dump truck, that's a pretty standard vehicle for what they have to do. But when you go to a tractor with a trailer, you're usually gonna have a very heavy load. And I understand that there's gonna be a lot of heavy load going up to the ice or the glass house. That's clear up on Happy Lake. Now, they've got all the metal pretty much all done, but I don't know if they have started pulling the glass for it. But I understand that's all gonna be on a specialty semi-trailer. It's gonna be hauling that glass, and it's gonna be heavy, and it's gonna be a tractor pulling it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't know if we could enforce something like that, but I do think that we could enforce a surcharge. I mean, through the council could vote on it, putting a surcharge onto the permits.
So what you're saying is that we know that the people that are building are probably putting the heaviest loads onto our roads.
Well, they're putting the heaviest loads on and they're putting the fastest drivers.
Okay, so the most damage. So they have a community impact. And so what you're saying is that we want them to pay an impact fee for the use of the roads and the damage that they're causing on those roads. Now, I don't know what the word impact fee in New Mexico means. I do know what it is in Texas, and if there are certain requirements that you had to meet in order to have an impact fee. But that's what I hear you saying, and that's the way you would explain it to them. You're hurting not just the road in front of your house, but all the way down to 434.
Exactly.
And so that is a community impact. And how do we get to extract some money from them to make repairs to our roads?
And I think you're right. The only way that you could approach it would be through that fee that you pay at the very
The
beginning.
building permit. Right, it'd be attached to the building permit.
So it would have to be in there. It would be a fee. It wouldn't be it would be refundable.
No, the way that I see it is it would be a percentage of the building permit. You know, the building permit is based upon the value of the construction. And the fee would be based upon if it's larger construction, there's probably gonna be more vehicles, more people, more.
Right, and once the building is done, none of us driving our vehicles have significant loads. It's these extraneous activities other than just living here that cause.
Yeah, and if you ever do any road design, which I've done quite a bit, it's not the smaller vehicles, less than 10,000 pounds.
Unlimited applications of that load.
Yes, it's the vehicles over 10,000 pounds that damage the road. That's how you design a road, is you do a traffic count and you count the larger vehicles. That's it, smaller vehicles don't matter.
Nope. Pavement design, it's all about the heaviest.
Yes.
Are you guys aware of the fact that, and are you gonna take into account that it's not only, you're gonna have to do more than just single family new construction?
No walking new construction.
Because quite honestly, you're only looking at about 40 or 50 permits throughout the entire village for a single family home. We're looking at about 60 currently, within the resort, for, additions and also minor permits. There will come a time if you start adding these permit fees, just be aware of the fact that it becomes economically unfeasible for these people to do that.
Yeah, well,
If you add another permit, because one, they have to go, the first thing they do is they will go to the architectural committee for a permit. Once it's approved there, it goes to the village.
Right.
For permitting. If it requires state permitting, then it goes to the state permit. So you've got three different entities there that they have to comply with that all require fees.
yes. And what I'm proposing is not a massive fee. It's just a small, because the construction is what causes most of the
No,
traffic on the road.
I'm not denying that, Dan, but what I'm saying is unless it's a significant fee, even if you charge $1,000 for every one of those permits, you're looking at some
Oh, yeah.
pretty minor amounts of money that's going into for impact fees. And I'm questioning whether, I'm not questioning the idea, I'm questioning what the effectiveness of it and whether it will work because of our small area and the number of permits that we're doing.
Could another way of looking at this be we also, if we had them responsible for dust control through the village during their construction operation, they would have to be applying something
Right.
through the village to control the dust.
So that gets complicated
Okay,
because you have one contractor that might be applying one chemical, one contractor that can only put it on water. I think a fund that's developed
right.
to be able to do that, dust control.
But we don't have the manpower to do the dust control.
Just another thought is that rather than another permit, what we've been doing with the encroachment permit is there's a bond you have to put. You get it back if the work you do on the right of way isn't damaged. If you did it all to spec, you get your bond back. But if you wanted to look at the bonding of that encroachment permit to be calculated for your travel up the road, dust abatement, things of that nature, that rather than a separate standalone permit with a separate fee, we might come up with a formula that says, this is your standard bond. Your construction site is 2 miles off of 434. There's an additional bond you must do. I will also point out that we see housing constructions on the same streets. And if the person at the end of Panorama Way, the person at the middle of Panorama Way, are having trucks going up and down the same, well, then how do we assess the dust control? How do we assess
So that's,
who gets the farthest, how do you calibrate that? But there may be another way rather than a standalone permit that we could look at some of the bonding requirements. The dust control, if that's something you wanted to incorporate into an encroachment permit, I know the Kurt mentioned that he's looking at different technologies for dust abatement, which is great. Maybe if you put that on the responsibility of the drivers rather than the village, maybe that's something else to pursue, but there might be other ways to skin this cat.
Yeah. I don't think it would work as a separate permit. I think it would just be an additional charge on the building permit, just an additional one. And it would just, my vision of it would be that it would just be a percentage of the cost of the building permit that goes into a fund that's available for Kurt to repair.
For the village to do it.
Yes. And it could be to buy more of his polymer to put down wherever it needs to be put down. Or it could be the hiring of another motor grader operator. You know, I mean, to me, it's up to Kurt what to do with that money. But it's obvious that we just need some additional funding to be able to take care of the roads as they need to be taken care of.
Just as a reference point, we do have an additional charge on building permits for single family construction. That goes dedicated to a housing fund. So if you, and it's just a flat rate, it's not a percentage, but the village does have some template that you're asking for. If there's an additional fee on the building permit side, we have a reference point of how that gets set up into the fund and who has access to it and what that. So.
Yeah, and our purpose is just to draft that up and then let Chuck take it to the village council to debate and determine.
So you could do it by length. You pay, we're gonna charge you this, 2 cents of linear foot from to 434 for your length, and that comes determines that flat fee that you're talking about.
I think that would get a little complicated for, and that puts onus on the village staff to determine that. I think if you're building like the glass house that Lenny was talking about.
Okay, based on the cost, okay.
Yeah, that's gonna, to truck in glass on tractor trailers, you're gonna be paying a lot more than if you're bringing it up on the back of the fifth wheel from Alpine or whatever.
The only thing I'd be cautioned about is the actual term of impact fees.
Yeah, I was not wondering.
How that gets allocated.
The state
I
has,
know that we don't really have impact fees. And we charge you for your water meter based on what it charges for the water meter to be
Right.
installed, right? And there's a bond for that, you get it back so long as you pass inspection. But typically, impact fees are, what does it cost for a square foot for a sidewalk to run in front of your property? And the other properties to connect to a sidewalk? Oh. What is the cost to build a road, percentage of this lot? Compared to where you are to the main, oh, so,
the water line.
well, the water.
Keeps on going.
The water lines, I think, are pretty, there's like 130 miles, 120 miles of water mains. It's the size of them. But that network, I think, is pretty elaborate. It's the sewer mains we don't have, but I just want to be mindful that the term impact fees, we need to be careful of what lane that actually puts us in, because
Does the state have
yeah,
regulations on the impact?
yes, it does.
Okay.
And there are some people that just avoid them, and there are some people
Yeah.
that embrace them. We really haven't really done anything except to assess a fee, so we at least know we get our costs back. Right, that's really it.
An impact fee is set up so that you can get back the cost that helped make that house sustainable. How much did the water infrastructure to get to that house cost, and what would it take to make repairs? And you charge an impact fee. Like in the city of Austin, a residential impact fee would be $5,000. So it's not small numbers. And then a wastewater fee would be on top of that. And then there's a road impact fee, and there's a park impact fee. So they pushed all these things onto the developer based on impact fees as to what their activity did to the community.
Albuquerque has impact fees as well for sidewalks and road improvements too. I just don't know. I just think we should get some clarity on its usage in New Mexico before we jump in, but I do want the committee to know we at least have a template where this conversation about an additional assessed fee that goes to a separate fund. We've been using that, and that's because we adopted a housing ordinance. So we did that first, and so we were able to assess a fee that kind of relates back to that, capturing at the building construction permit side. if we're gonna be making these updates to Title VII, I think there's a way that you'll notice in a lot of your updates to Title VII, there were initial actual fees that were listed in the ordinance. And we've been advised, strike all of that and just say per resolution. Otherwise, you gotta do a whole amendment to your ordinance, which makes total sense, that the council can convene more quickly to say, we need to assess, and then typically they do an assessment of all fees in June, July for the next calendar year based on, cost of.
CPI.
Yeah, CPI. So, there's a path I think we could find if that's something that the committee would like to do. I just want to be mindful that we don't get stuck on semantics and end up somewhere in a ditch.
Yeah,
No pun intended from the infrastructure committee.
and for comparison, the architectural committee for the HOA within the resort charges two different fees for like a single family home. If somebody comes in and is wanting a permit to build a single family home, there is a permit fee, which is a set amount. And there is also then a performance deposit, which and one of them is based on square footage. And it's $1 a square foot. So it's not a cheap permit for them to achieve. And out of those permits, the performance deposit, there's 2 inspections that happen there. And then they get the balance if everything they comply with all of their application. So, and possibly they can do something like that.
And yeah, and I'm just throwing these out there. 'cause-
Yeah, and I agree. That may be something that the village can look at and emulate and maybe satisfy and help with the roads, because obviously we need help with that, for sure.
Is there a chance that impact fee could go towards the contractor versus the homeowner?
Either Pay for it
They're
anyway.
gonna pay for it anyhow, but it would be a way for us to.
So your point on if it were per building permit, then when I come in and want to remodel my bathroom, I need to get a building permit. And I would be paying that fee as well.
You would, but it would be a very percentage because you have contractors coming up there using the roads and
Right.
driving up the side of the road,
Right.
parking across the
So
ditch.
everybody that gets a building permit,
Yeah, but if it's a percentage base, and if you're just getting a remodel done, your cost is that much lower, so
Yeah,
the fees can be
right,
that.
it's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that would help build the pool of money. Because it would be all, the little permits would be contributing little amounts,
Yeah,
but there's many more of those.
for painting and things like that, it's called maintenance permit, through the HOA, and there is no permit fee for that.
Right. Makes sense.
How would that work with things like the resort, where they're like last year when they were putting the new lift lines, and so they had stuff going up and down the road constantly with it?
Did they get a construction permit?
Unless it is a building, there is no permitting for that. Like for when they did the new lifts and stuff, there is no permitting.
What about
Water tanks.
That's true.
the pickleball courts?
I'm sorry?
Pickleball courts and that didn't get a permit?
Interesting.
Yeah, really.
Interesting.
And that's part of the problem. You have these entities that are,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Okay, so for the next meeting, I'll get a draft of that infrastructure plan for everyone to look at it. I assume it's probably gonna be 3 or 4 months before we get it kind of tied up. I'll try and send it out before the next meeting, so everyone has a chance to look at it. But that's the main things is that I think we should lower the speed limits for the larger vehicles. Because it's speed and weight that causes,
yeah, the bigger issue is, yes, we can do all of that. It comes down to compliance and enforcement.
Yeah.
That's a difficult thing.
I get that, but there's also knowledge and education that
Sure.
has to come down to.
No,
So,
I get that. but time is money for them,
Like, yeah.
and that's how they look at it.
Like I said, I came nose to nose with a logging truck in a place where I did not expect a logging truck at all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so then, keep thinking out loud, so then the performance bond is something that could be held to guarantee performance, which is slower speeds on the roads. Just crazy ideas.
He's gonna be sitting there monitoring it to see how you know.
So,
Santos?
Just another reference point, some of the amendments that, you're gonna look at in Title VII. There's a new section that's being proposed where in some instances, the Public Works Director is saying, I really need to see a traffic management plan. If you're gonna be doing this much work for this type of an encroachment or whatever, I need to see how many flagmen you have, I need to see cones. You know, we could elaborate that section to talk about some of these construction jobs that are gonna, we know are gonna be heavier vehicles, or we know are gonna be a longer duration, that I need to see a plan of what road you're gonna take. So that we could identify, we want the public to know Tuesday through Saturday, there's a big logger truck is coming. So I just want to point out that there's some other things that we've been looking at internally on some of this road work that's happening, that we feel the public should have more engagement and knowledge, that we could text blast, hey, if you're between here and here, we could be mindful, we're doing water repairs, and so these trucks will be up, whatever.
yeah,
We could put it on the digital board as well. If that's something you think we should do, there's some language where we're trying to address it in another section. So I don't want to discourage it, but I also think that maybe we should dovetail some of these parts
Yeah, no,
together if they
we should.
match.
we should make contradicting.
No, I think if we have a standard that says if your truck is X tonnage, whatever, and is gonna have more than X number of trips is for construction in a week, I'd like to see a plan, right? Which road are you gonna take? So
What
that
are you gonna do to maintain, to keep his speed under control?
Yeah, these are things I think are reasonable to ask, because we're gonna be asking for it on some of these encroachment jobs where we know it's just gonna be bigger and people need to know this lane's gonna be closed Monday through Wednesday. Okay, and we've got cones out and flagmen.
Excellent.
Even concrete truck, where are they gonna wash out? Because
Yeah,
they
Well,
washed out in front
On the side of the road.
Yeah, and the little ditch part. Right?
Yeah.
In my front, went in there. Yeah.
Okay, let's move along to, Title VII. Because we've got,
You wanna talk about the survey?
what,
Public
the
service.
survey?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah,
would
okay.
like to get some direction on the survey.
And then,
We
Yeah.
can do a survey. It's just, what are we trying to capture in our results? Is it just roads? What is it?
what we really want is to get that to the public, to get more input from the public, fill our seats for our meetings, and get more idea what the people want.
So in that sense, like the conversation that the village had on Allen Fields. What do you want? What are the amenities that you'd like to see? How often do you use the park, things of that nature, so we could get a better description of it's a bike park, it's a playground, or whatever it is. I want to do the same with this, rather than just getting people here, because to do that, we just need to do an email blast or a text blast. Hey, we're going to be talking about this and it's Monday at 3. But if there's more details that we're trying to get from the community, I just need direction of what information are we trying to capture? So I can draft questions that try to get those answers so that's usable for this committee. And I don't know exactly what direction you want on the street side. Did you want to talk water and hydrants? Did you want, what is it you want me to craft so that we can send it out for survey?
and I know that, Mr. Chair, Kurt also has some thoughts on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we can do a survey. The village has done I mean, that for the park plan was overwhelming. I think you're gonna see something similar, just, we just need to make sure we say it the right way, and what are we asking so we know what we're trying to capture.
My opinion, Mr. Chair, is that I think we ought to start with the roads and not complicate it with the other infrastructure that's underneath the road, because roads is what people see and feel the most.
Right.
I think that's a starting. Internally, I think if we wanted to address the water and sewer, along with the other utilities, public utilities that are in there, I think, we could almost do that by board, and people really wouldn't care, because other than possibly water, if somebody lives on the end of a main that's only a 2-inch main, they would care. But most wouldn't notice the difference.
I agree that I think most people are more interested in saying something about our roads,
Yeah,
and they have been for years. I just need a better direction, is what is it you want to capture?
sure.
Is it the road?
Because I can see that being really ugly.
If we leave it open-ended, absolutely. But to me, I'd rather quantify something on a scale of 1 to 5,
Right.
but I just need better direction. What do you want to grab?
So, Mr. Chair, my opinion is I think we're too early for a survey.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we've got some things that we need to get in place as a committee and get all on the same page with it before we start getting a lot of noise from outside. So that, I think probably first quarter of next year, maybe down the line, we say, okay, this is what we're doing, and, is this what village
Yeah,
wants?
because if we come around and say we want to revise the roadway hierarchy plan, we want the public input on that. We'll get a lot of input on that.
Yeah.
When you put something like that out, and therefore that's why we want to wait until we get to that stage.
Yes, I just, that's my.
The timing, I think we can capture it anytime. I think that the lesson I believe we learned for the Allen Fields is that once it was organized, it went out, and boom, we gave people 10 days, whatever. They were responsive. I think we could do something comparable with this committee on roads. Whenever the committee feels we're ready to do it, I think, I just don't want folks to feel that, for me, did you need this organized by Friday? Or what's the timeline, and what do I need to capture? We could do that, but I just need more direction.
And so when you just asked that question, what do you want to capture? My mind just went blank. I'm like, no, I really don't know what we want to capture. We want to get organized first and.
Well, I agree with Mr. Kaiser. Roads is gonna be, water tanks, water hydrants, no one really, except they just want to make sure that it's available, right?
Yeah.
But the roads, everybody's on it. Everybody's got an opinion on it. And I just think we need to figure out, what is it we're trying to capture? Are we gonna identify segments? Are we gonna identify the west side, the east side? How do we want to frame it to get the information we're trying to capture is what I really feel needs to be defined, and I don't have a definition yet.
I think what Scott came up with to begin with, as far as defining the roads for, between arterial, collector, that's the 30,000-foot level. We need to define that and agree on that, and then start working down from that point. Because when you're looking at an arterial or a collector road, is a lot different than a residential street, say up on Vista del Sur, where you've got 9 houses kind of thing, compared to other main type collector streets that have hundreds, and depending on the time of year, you've got thousands of cars working on those. So the maintenance and the upkeep on those roads is a lot higher, obviously, than it would be on some of these other less traveled roads.
Okay.
There was a question that Kurt asked at one of the meetings, 2 meetings ago. And it was kind of toward the end, kind of Scott Moss, and his question was, what is your goal for the roads in Angel Fire? And it was, he was following up with, is it to pave every road in Angel Fire? Is that what the goal of our committee is? That was what, and then that was the end of the meeting and we all went home. But, that question still is in my head, and this is what we want to know from the community. Do we, on a long-term basis, on a 20-year basis, are we looking at trying to get pavement on every single street? Are we happy as a village? And are you residents happy? But we gotta go get ourselves organized as to what does that mean? Does that mean to have the street in front of you will never get paved, but it will be in front of you because you're on a collector and he's on a residential street? That's the kind of stuff that we could survey for and give him the definition. We're not there yet.
Yeah, and the problem with that is the person that lives on that one residential street is saying, well, why is his paved and you're not gonna pave mine? So you've got that community, that communication gap that has to be filled somehow through the village.
Yeah, we have to be able to show them the logic
And
of
the
why
village
that
has
is.
to be able to communicate
That's it.
that fact that we're doing this because of
This is what we had from 04, whatever, but I hope we will come up with new.
Yeah.
It was updated 2.5 years ago.
Was it?
Yes.
No, 2 years ago?
Yes. So, because you had collectors that went through the RV park and they went across the
Okay.
gun range.
Yeah, this is the newest one.
Yeah,
Okay, this
so-
was
It was updated to remove roads that never really were gonna happen.
adopted by resolution 2004-13 on 18 March 2004.
I know.
So there must be another one.
That's the correct one. The stamp wasn't updated.
Oh, okay.
That was the piece made.
So while we're on that topic, as a part of updating Title VII, when I looked at the definitions, I was very surprised because our Title VII says 434 is the arterial going through the village. And all these other 4 or 5 streets that we've been calling
Arterial.
arterial are defined as minor arterial,
Yeah.
and it doesn't address collector at all. So we need to rewrite the definitions.
So it actually struck every reference to minor arterial by resolution ordinance 10 years ago. But you're right. I think even just looking at the definitions of what are we gonna classify it, how are we gonna call it? And I think everybody had consensus here, well, that's a minor. Yeah, well, we struck the term minor 12 years ago. That doesn't exist. So we need to put it back. I don't even know why it was struck, but nonetheless, there's a lot in Title VII that it's not just encroachment permits, it's not just water meters, it's not just sewer mains and extensions. It's elaborate of all the infrastructure that's needed to make the village. And from the definition down to enforcement, to establishment of fees. So it's an important conversation I don't think has happened in a long time since it was first adopted in the early 2000s.
I think it's a misnomer to consider 434 an arterial within the village because the village doesn't control 434.
And so that's,
But from roadway plan standpoint, it is an arterial. And we gotta keep it that way. It's not our jurisdiction,
I agree.
but it's our arterial.
But it somehow needs to be separated from our definitions that we can have arterial roads directed into a major roadway, state-controlled roadway, so that
Right.
people and the village and everybody else knows that we don't have control over that. We don't make those kinds of decisions on
So maybe
whatever.
we-
Obviously, if we
So
did,
maybe we make the category
we'd
above
have
arterial.
ATVs running up and down.
The category above arterial is state maintained road.
well, so I guess that's my concern is that arterial, collector, and all of those definitions are NMDOT definitions. I don't think.
To a point.
Yeah, but I don't think, what they are. If you go into the NMDOT, the 500 ADF or whatever. But what I think we have here is Kurt hit it on the nose last time he was in here, is that we have 7 roads that are evacuation routes essentially, right? So we name them we define evacuation route, or I think you use critical route in your stuff. We come up with another name and define that is similar to that, but we don't talk about arterials, because if we have a conversation with NMDOT and they're talking about arterials and we're talking about Via Del Rey, we're on two different levels there.
Yeah, no, that's
So I
fine.
think we define something else that defines those 5 roads that Kurt was talking about when he was a delivery driver or whatever. He said, those are the ones that come down to 434, and those are the ones that you gotta keep clear, and you gotta keep maintained, because.
No, I think that's fine. Yes.
That's interesting point.
I think we're drifting way off a survey.
Okay.
So I think what we need to do is, we've already pretty much said survey is something that's gonna happen later.
Yep.
Where we can be more prepared for it. So I think we're gonna run into these conversations we're having now in the Title VII. So I think we should just move along and get to our Title VII stuff, because there's no way that we're gonna have enough time today.
Brett's memo.
Huh?
We gotta get to Brett's memo.
Right, is that the one that Brett? Yeah,
That's probably next on the list, isn't it?
yes, and that will all be in the Title VII, but by looking at our Title VII, we don't have enough time in one, maybe even 2 meetings to completely go through everything in Title VII.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think what we've been doing on some of the other ordinances is just breaking it up. So if you wanted to, hey, let's take this section first, chew on that, and then the next one you will take this section, chew on that. So that it's not cumbersome of, hey, let's just do shotgun and how much can we get through, how much.
Right, because
Well, you could do it that way, but I just don't know that that's really effective. So
Right.
if you want, you know, this is what was sent out to you in the email, last, there's one amendment that's done, and that's from this morning, that, I think after we type this, we've been advised to maybe hold off just a little bit till we do some more investigation, and that's in the water meters, and water rates.
Page 8,
Yeah. Yep, page 8. 734 water water required separate meters. Establishing a new one, irrigation meters. There, I think more in depth about what are we doing right now with irrigation meters? And what rates are we charging for irrigation meters before we say they should be prohibited? So just be mindful that one needs to be investigated a little bit more. Right below that, bulk water usage. We have a rate for it, but we don't have a reference to it in the ordinance. And so we've been at, hey, let's put these two so they get together. Okay, and you're gonna see some of that and a lot of these proposed amendments. Mr. Chairman, however you want to proceed, I've got Title IX that I can share on the screen in its entirety, and we can scroll down through that. If need to, I've also got some stormwater references from Red River and Taos that may be incorporated into our Title VII. Our stormwater provisions is 3 paragraphs. But I think the conversation about roads is we know that storm runoff, if it's not managed correctly, and the moment it hits our right of way, it hits our roads, now we got another road to fix. So it may be that we have this section about encroachments, and we have this section about bonds that are required and inspections or encroachments and culverts to try to mitigate stormwater. But if we want to look at enhancing that stormwater section, I think Red River calls it flood damage control or mitigation or plan, however you want to call it. The idea is if that's something this committee feels we need to enhance, just kind of leave it alone. I just bring that to your attention.
So why do we have a separate irrigation meter in this community? Who's, is that for the homeowners association primarily using it, or?
A great question. So in 1988, there was the annexation of the resort into the village, all of the subdivisions, and there's language in that for them to irrigate the golf course and to make snow. There's language in that agreement. And that agreement was modified in 2002, maybe 2003. So there's a reference outside of this ordinance to irrigation that we feel just needs to be investigated further. We know there's this agreement with the resort, and I don't think anybody doesn't want them to irrigate the golf course or make snow. We think that's important. But how does it trickle down into other properties? It's really not defined. And so if we're just asking for that one segment, give us a little more time to look at what are the rates? If we are charging accordingly for that, but there are instances where people have pulled a separate irrigation permit in addition to their domestic permit to water the grass.
Are you paying the same rate?
That's what we need to investigate.
Okay.
Interesting. Yes, it is.
So the revision that was proposed here was just to add in, they're all prohibited.
Correct.
And we would say, except for those that are done by separate contract under.
We don't even need to say that because that falls under the sentence that says for single family residential.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't impact the resort, golf course,
Makes perfect
field,
sense.
it doesn't. But we need to investigate what is the rate before we prohibit it, because maybe we just need to adjust the rate. Or that's all we're asking. But Mr. Chairman, you've got otherwise everything that went out in your last email, with the updates to Title VII, where we've got added definitions, added terms, that's everything that's underlined. That is not existing in the ordinance today. We're proposing, some of this is just straight conversations with Kurt. So for example, on page 1, substantial completion with respect to encroachments. The last sentence he feels is important for him so that he gets an idea of when do you earn your bond? The retrieval of your bond that you put to get that back off your encroachment permit. And so he's asked 2 site visits, 2 inspections, that's a minimum, that's substantial. Because typically it's 3. All right, well, if you've got 2 successful, seems to be substantial completion. The 3rd one is just to close it out. Adding a definition on connecting driveways. You do see some of this, it's the half moon, right? Is that 2 driveways? Yeah, it's gonna be 1. It's just a continuous one. The next sections, again, part of this is driven heavily on our encroachments in the village. So there was some language in Title VII that exists today that says to get a permit, you go to the building official. And then you go down 4 more sections, it says, you go to Public Works. Or you go back down and it says, go back to the building official. We're just gonna name one person as a building official. The other thing it says is before you get a building permit, you have to have an encroachment permit. Oh. Okay. Well, that wasn't really clear. So some of this language that you're seeing is to enhance that point that, as your conversation was about the heavy trucks coming in for construction, when a property owner is getting the site ready to build, you're seeing a lot of heavy trucks to do that. To clear it, thin it, to level it, to bring in fill, whatever. Those aren't on back of F-150s. Those are big trucks. And so we want to see that culvert installed prior to, rather than just jump in the ditch to get on and off the property. I think you're going to see some clarity on the encroachment permits as well, is that it's anytime you touch the right of way to get access to your lot, that's an encroachment permit. Because you had before interpretation, you don't need a culvert, don't need a permit. Because there's nothing to inspect. Well, but you still have trucks coming in, and we want to see that there's not a damage to the roads being done. There's also language in here because there was a lot of policy of saying, well, I need a box culvert because you're draining onto the road. And well, we really didn't clarify and define what that means. So we have a definition that if the road profile is lower than your property, we're looking at a box culvert, a culvert equivalent of X or Y, right? So this attempt in these amendments is to try to catch up where we feel the village has fallen behind. Provide clarity where we feel there's some ambiguity that just needs to be tweaked. The basic one you're going to see is that every reference to a fee is struck And it's to be set by resolution.
The fee resolution.
Yeah, so you're gonna see that uniform throughout. That's probably the easiest one. With respect to water. Bulk usage was something we asked to provide clarity on the definition. There was a time when the village was backlogged on meters. It was right around COVID, but just to get the meter was a challenge. But then to install the meter, that we had a request from the contractors, can we just put it in ourselves? Well, the code says you can't, we do it. Well, can you put a provision in the code that says we can do it? All right, so we did it. Well, no, there's not a backlog. So Kurt has asked, pull it. All right, that's fine. You'll see a provision for snow removal on sidewalks, where originally the code said if you've got sidewalk in front of your property, you're responsible for cleaning it during snowstorms, and nobody ever was. And it was creating hazards, people actually walking in the streets instead of the sidewalks. So we put a provision that the village had the authority to clear it in the event of a major storm. It's struck because I think Kurt actually wants more clarity. The way we define a major storm, he says we can have a bunch of snow and still not meet that definition, but we really need to clean the sidewalks. Okay, so it's not an attempt just to ban it. It's on that section, it's really clarity is, I think, what Kurt would prefer. And speaking of the village ability to clean stuff or to mitigate public health, culverts. The village, there's nothing in the language that says the village can go clean out sediment in a culvert. We should, and I think other cities, particularly urban centers, hey, man, if the city has to come mow your yard because it's 3 feet tall, we'll do it, but we're gonna put a lien on your property to get our money back. If this committee feels that there should be some semblance of language to that, for a property owner that never cleaned it, and now we see that this jammed culvert is creating a problem for our right of way. I think that's within your discretion to propose, and if it's simple language, that the village shall look at this by ordinance, fair enough. There's language in Title VII that just reverts to the village as the enforcing entity. It's being specific to an individual or department. Sometimes those departments aren't here in 5 years. So by just leaving it as the village, however that's going to be designated. I mean, at one time, we had a code enforcement officer, then we didn't have a code enforcement officer. Now we have a code enforcement officer. Okay, great. But sometimes it's the public works director who's like, yeah, I don't like that. Okay, so if we just leave it open for the village to be responsible, I think we're covered in those events when that person retires and that spot's never filled or was never filled because we didn't have financing, but somebody was responsible for that enforcement. So these are the general highlights that you're going to see in these Title VII amendments. But on the water and on the sewer, there's another section on bulk rate usage for sewer. Just like we have bulk rate usage for water, it's silent on bulk rate for sewer. And I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if it's Bob's yard anymore. It might be Frank's yard now. They bought out. They would dump which is where we want them to, the headway, wherever that is by Public Works. But there's not another reference to it in the code for them to do that. Again, this is where I think we want the language to catch up. So this is the high view. I do feel that as you look at the road sections and how you want to clarify those, I was looking at some other municipalities, the width of the road, the line of sight of the road. There are other qualifiers that other places are using. I agree with Kurt. I think our definitions were just pulled out of an manual and just assume that they fit neatly. And if there's more to do it, I can give you a Red River or a Ruidoso. Hey, this is their matrix on how they call out roads and the criteria they're using in their matrix. If you want to mirror that, that's well within your discretion to propose to council as well. So,
Chairman, what I sent out was comments on this specific document. I wasn't looking at all of Title VII. I was looking only at what what was sent out to us. So that was the context of what I wrote.
Exactly.
And he's already clarified a few of those points.
So this is the work the previous committee did. And we need to get it to a point where it can get into council and get comment and approve.
I really like your take on what we're proposing on encroachments. There's another provision in the right of way where, and you may know, some of these properties, there's no place to store material during construction except in the road. Be just the way the topography is on that part of the subdivision. Well, if there's an allowance that's being proposed for someone to do that, that kind of mirrors the encroachment permit. There's a bond that needs to be put up, because and everything needs to be gone by the time construction is done. So there's limits, there's parameters, similar to what you're gonna see on the encroachment permit of a site plan and a site inspection by Public Works Director to say, I'll let you do it here and here, but don't do it over there. It's kind of what happens, in my understanding, with the encroachment permits. Your culvert's gonna go right here. Don't. It should go right here. Okay. Well, if we've got these conversations going on right now, with contractors on placement of access to the property, looking at this opportunity for them to have permission to put something on the right of way, it's supposed to mirror that same language. But this isn't a blanket across the entire village. It's just, I know there's that cul-de-sac off of Valley of the Utes, right?
Ravenwood.
Yes, there's no place.
There's a house built down there and that's where the problem started.
Yes, and it's kind of like, well, because everything, here's the road and everything is like that. Great view.
No, it's steeper than that.
Right. So trying to store material, the only place to do it was right there on the roadway. And I think technically there was 20 feet of front yard or 25 feet, but nonetheless, that's why you're seeing some of this here in this language. I think some of the comments that were in the memo, we've captured that in what you have in the print form from the village manager of trying to make sure we keep things lined up correctly. But again, Mr. Chairman, if you want to take, hey, let's just do pages 1 through 4, and then next time we'll do 5 through 8, whatever. I think that there is a lot, and at the same time, we're probably gonna, hey, by the way, we need to add this. I would not be surprised when you're looking at these amendments. What about this? You're right, we should look at that. I don't want you to feel this is a final form just yet, because we need your eyes to look at this as well.
So I guess, Chairman, there's only 2 comments that I have on that is you gotta be really, really careful of these because you don't want to turn the village into the enemy.
Sure.
I mean, because that's the way some of these homeowners read these. So you gotta look at both sides to be able to get an enforceable permit or an enforceable document and a usable document. Because I can tell you at least 3 or 4 places where there's people that have made access and they haven't told anybody. And one of them's got logs in the ditch, so.
Great.
Yeah. But it's just because he didn't understand what everything that he had to do and just thought it was so overwhelming that he was just gonna throw him in there to get his access and then pull him out.
Yeah, we get that a lot.
I know. And that's what I'm saying is that you don't wanna make it so onerous. Before, and I don't know if that template still exists, there was a checklist that helped people with the requirements for this. Did you put together a checklist for?
It exists.
Do you wanna
Exist,
share
and
it? Because weren't you doing an update on that too?
Yeah, very briefly. So we have documents for the various kinds of permits that you would want to pull. Encroachment is one of them. It is a pretty straightforward, comprehensive list of the stuff that you have to do and where that you have to do it. We also have a combination document, which as far as I can understand, predates me, of course, but, or predates my work here. As far as I can tell, that's supposed to be a comprehensive set of documents that, or checklists that you would follow if you were to construct a new single-family home. For whatever reason, in that combination document, encroachment isn't one of them. So we're gonna read, and that's the one that's hosted on our website and is used. And uses this to access. So just a couple, late last week, we realized that and decided that, of course, we're gonna add encroachment back into it and make that clearer. So the document exists, but it isn't as publicly available as it should be. So we're here with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I just think that needs to be developed hand in hand with these changes to make sure that it's crystal clear. Because some of these read like they're obtrusive, but they really aren't. But
And some of it, like encroachments, we thought it was pretty straightforward. No, talks about it here, talks about it here, talks about it here. So we had to touch all three, right? And so some of it might be, did we just say that? Yeah, I know, but because there are different sections that relate back to that, we need to touch all the sections to make sure they're uniform. So I think that's part of, let's make sure everything is lining up when we're done across the board, so everybody's on the same page.
where's a good break point in,
Well, you can do it like in the sections that you talked about, let's just do streets. Because that's how it flows, streets, water, wastewater. That's kind of the pack that this takes. So
we
pages 1 through six and a half. Page 7 is really the removal of the private installation of water meters. And then the rest of that is water. So pages 1 through 6.5 really talk about culverts, encroachments, snow removal, storage in the right of way. You had a question about the lightage. This is not designed to create a conflict with night sky, but we don't think it's appropriate to keep a 100-watt high pressure sodium vapor reference in a code 2026. That's all.
No, what I was looking at was it saying the village wants a streetlight at every intersection across the entire community, and I'm not sure that's what everybody in the village wants.
I think that's why that is being brought to you to take another look at it. You know, our initial take was that reference needs to go. Yeah, sodium vapor lights, absolutely. But if there's other things you feel should be tweaked, absolutely.
so the whole Title VII, how much, does it follow this same summary, 7.2-4?
So everything is in numerical order, 713, 714, 7.
So these are just the changes to the
Current text. Yeah,
the current, the base document.
that's correct.
So we've kind of got to take them both together to.
That's why I can put it on the screen if you like.
No, that's fine. I'm just suggesting that we come back the next meeting with comments for through section 7.2-4, including review of the. Because there might be some things in there too. So I can put on.
Okay.
Is there any way with these changes do you have them written up separately, or is there any way to get it attached to actual Title VII so then we can see what's before and after it?
So this is just written just in the snapshot for that section of what's being added or deleted. I could give you more context of Title VII, of what's above it, what's below it, and that kind of stuff.
Can you just give a red line? Can you do a red line?
All of Title VII?
All of Title VII?
Let me do that in segments.
Okay.
So that it's not overwhelming,
That's fine.
like the whole Title VII. So I'll do streets, then I'll do water and.
It's all available to the public on the web, on the village's website. You can go in.
Yeah, no, it is. The problem is trying to match
You
up
want-
what-
you just
what's
want the
being
mirror
changed. You're flipping pages on two different things, trying to get it there, to
Yeah.
understand more behind the changes.
So what I'll do is I'll take the text amendments, put that into the master.
Got it,
And just make that as a
Just a red
standalone
line,
streets,
got it.
water.
That would help.
Because then if we want to see other text change, then we can red line in addition or change from you. 'Cause I was just reacting to what was written here, and I know some other text got in here, and that's what caught my eye. And I just wanted to raise the question.
So when can you send that to the committee?
I can send, well, cause this
Just
is
roads.
easy,
Yeah.
because I just need to copy this out and put it into this. I just need to find the breaks. And then I'll send it to the clerk to send out to,
Okay.
the
In,
committee.
in a day or two, or?
Yeah, cause this is adding to what is into Title VII, just this text.
So we can add an action item for next meeting to come back with comments for 7-1 through 7-24, is that what it is?
Yeah, all of one is streets. And then you get to 7-2 is, 7-2.
Security deposit, permit load.
That's when you start getting into water,
Yeah.
with, meters.
Yeah.
Let's just do 7-1. Let's just do 7-1 and get
We
the.
can just do something.
7-2 is right away encroachments. 7-3 is water. So if you did 7-1 and 7-2 with respect to encroachments. And then chapter 3 is water systems. Chapter 4, I believe, is wastewater. Yep, sewer systems. Chapter 5, this may go back to your initial conversation. It's oversized transit. And it talks about, purpose, definitions. So if you want to enhance, if you want to enhance that section, kind of like we talked about,
Right.
I think that's an appropriate spot for it.
Wow.
But again, I think this is part of that exercise. There's this section that seems to be far off because it's number 5. And all the other stuff should be in number 1. What do we need to do to get them closer? Or,
Together,
yeah,
deep drag it.
So just for understanding, we're gonna do review 7-1 that was previously looked at. And we're gonna look at the part of 7-1 that wasn't looked at,
and 7-2.
and 7-2.
Because 7-2 is encroachments, and 7-1 is streets, but they're all streets.
Right.
And then we'll do water, sewer separate.
If you mentioned 7-5, is it a big section as well?
It's not. 7-5.
Oh, against design criteria.
7-5 has 4. Let me put it on the screen.
Not there. But if it's roads, throw it in with there as well.
So you should be able to see it on the screen.
Yeah.
It's a short section, oversized transport. Purpose, it's to manufacture home modular home, similar oversized vehicles on village roads in a safe manner, not damage village right of way. It defines oversized vehicle, a permit is required, bonding, there's a traffic control plan. So if you want
Put that
to,
in there too. For
so
the
we'll do 7-1, 7-2, and 7-5, because it's all
roads.
So Counselor House, been on me on this. So this was brought before council in February to proceed with Title VII amendments. I don't know where it got lost, but I have sent this to the Taos News for publication. There will be a public hearing on the Title VII amendments, August 25th. So I don't know how soon you want to have your meeting. Just know that's happening.
Well, maybe that's our next work meeting.
Well, it would have to, yeah, that would be great.
Just go through them, all of our comments. If we can get our comments done between now and our next work meeting, then be able to digest our comments at that meeting.
So there's gonna be those 3 sections. Those will be priorities,
In 2 weeks.
1, 2, and 5. You saw that 5. I'll add that to it. What I'll do is I'll take the text that you have in a separate handout, merge it with the overall for sections 1, 2, and 5. And I'll get that out to you in an email through the clerk's office and just start giving us feedback.
And we got 2 weeks to digest that ourselves.
And what was the date on that?
August 25th at 5:30 for a public hearing. So it will be before council.
Is that a only a public hearing that meeting, or is it for, adopting it as well?
Well, it would be to adopt it as well, but if you're not ready, we'll have to wait.
I think it would be helpful for the council to at least see where this is going for those sections. And if it's at their discretion, we'd like more conversation, or this is the right path. I think that's kind of reasonable expectation. If the council doesn't feel it's buttoned up right, that's fine. But at least here's a substantial portion of Title VII related to roads and three sections of it. Let's get some feedback, or you like what we've got, and let's move forward.
And we're gonna do that with the committee reviewing the emails they get and sending comments back.
Correct. If you coordinate through the clerk's office, and then she can coordinate with me, and
So do we want to send individual comments back, or do we want to have a work session where we coordinate our comments and the committee has one set of comments?
I think we should do the work session.
I do too.
So that has to happen before the 25th.
Right.
what's your calendar
So-
availability?
When we're doing our scheduling for our next meeting, we can schedule that work session.
That's the 24th. 15 days from now.
It's the 24th open.
We do have a meeting at 4, just so you know.
On the 24th.
Yes, so if you can wrap it up in an hour, that's fine. If not, I mean, you can do it next week.
Can't do anything in it.
Yeah, no, I know that. So then I would suggest maybe the 17th or the 21st. That's a Monday or a Friday.
17th would be better for me.
17th,
And then there's no other meetings on the 17th, so you can have your time.
and that's for our regular meeting.
Work session.
That's a work session. That's a work session on section 1, 2, and 5.
I could do. Still be.
The 20th up in Dallas.
It might still be.
Here at 3.
On the
Okay.
17th. 17th.
Right.
And the goal for that meeting is to get a consolidated set of any comments on the proposed amendments at this time
Correct.
for those 3 sections.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's gonna bring in the issues that Brett had.
It should. Most of those comments we tried to incorporate already, but let me take a look at the memo just to make sure.
But it's a water restrictions is the one he's talking about.
Oh,
Yeah, there was the
water restrictions is going to be section 3.
so that would be under emergency situations.
Yeah, we do have some lane. If you look at what we have in the overall Title VII, there is, we don't have that detail. So Title VII right now talks about emergency situations for water, and that you have to put something in the newspaper within 24 hours or 72 hours. And it's like, no, I don't know of a newspaper that's a daily newspaper anymore. There's this ordinance, because I think when this was written, the Sangre de Cristo, what was it called? Was it Sangre de Cristo newspaper or?
San Diego Crystal Chronicle.
Yeah, the idea was, oh, we'll just go there. Well, they've been closed for how many years? But the village can still put out, and substitute that, the village has this text message option that's listed on the wall for water work that's happening in between this street, or tank 9 or whatever. There are ways that the village, I think, has more efficiency to get news out than what the ordinance is saying it should be followed and measured. So, it's not a big section. If you want to look at that, there's a draft that's in there that talks about how you notify the public. We've now got a digital board as well. If that's something you want to add for your road meeting.
Mr. Chairman, committee members. Yeah, the other thing is with this current water conditions that we have, it really made us focus in on language here. And there are some things that aren't in the current language, primarily the sale of bulk water, which we're selling a lot of right now because of the road construction not going on in Angel Fire, but going in around Angel Fire. And so it just, when we go on a water restriction right now, for the residents, there's no restriction to selling bulk water. So one of the things I think this committee should consider is, should that be included in our restrictions? And if so, what would be the parameters of that and at which level would it come into play? There are some other things that aren't really related technically to infrastructure, related to water, but I do think, because it's related to water, this committee could consider, for example, not, when you go to a restaurant, they automatically serve you a glass of water. It sounds trivial, it's a glass of water. But when you add that up with as many people as visit restaurants here, and I've been observing this, I've been going to different restaurants in town since we did this, and I noticed that this wasn't included in the ordinance. We did include it in the resolution, but it wasn't in the ordinance. And, you know, it's probably an education problem, but every restaurant serves water, you know, without asking. And most of the time, glasses are left at least half full, if not full, according to my little personal survey that I did. So those are the types of things. There may be other considerations, but those are the ones that I think need to be seriously considered. Even though we're, you know, it's raining right now, we're probably two good 200-inch winters away from this water problem being resolved. So it is something that we need to consider. It does affect water, which is your jurisdiction as far as a committee goes, even though the rules themselves may not be specific to infrastructure. They are affecting water, and I just think those types of considerations should be included in this ordinance.
Are those restrictions just on metered water, or is that well water also?
It's water within our system. Any water that originates from the Angel Fire system is subject to the water restrictions.
Metered.
So has bulk water been restricted?
No, it's not in the ordinance.
That's the question. Then that's the part where we need the ordinance to mirror some of the policy practices. It's not listed as something to actually meter. I don't know how it got omitted.
Can the council do something on an emergency basis to say, instead of taxing or restricting some of our residential water that are here, that they restrict bulk water?
So yes, and I think if you're looking at something quick, you'll see in the proposal, there's a section that we say we call out meter for bulk water. Then we call out a section that the council can by resolution set whatever those rates are and penalties as well. And so if you wanted to just take that one piece out to also talk about at your work session on the 17th to get to council by the 25th, that's a really small piece that you could look at.
But if you hear this section of the ordinance, it says specifically what restrictions are applied at each of the 4 different levels. Well, level 1 is no restrictions. So level 2 and the next 2 levels after that. And even though these are examples that were just became obvious because historically we haven't, well, maybe the last 4 years we have, but prior to that, we didn't sell that much bulk water. Bulk water was primarily sold to people who lived in areas that didn't have access to the water system. But right now, we're selling quite a bit, or we have been this summer, quite a bit of bulk water to the people that are watering down roads as they're asphalting, 434 and so on. So it's just a consideration that wasn't presented to the council when this was put in place. But I think you should personally take the time because I know there's 3 different levels there, but some of these things are not restrictive enough. Like they say, it's not a good idea to do something, or we don't recommend that you do something. And I guess that's fine, but in some of those cases, I think the language should be a little more rigid. You know, so that we can help protect the water that we have. And that's why I wanted it to come before this committee. I mean, I could go up and tell the council, you need to make this change. They might do it, but it's not the right way to do it. That should come before a committee.
Well, does that make sense as far as timing, if we add that to the conversation on the 17th? And if we just focus on that one bit, we take that to council on the 25th or whatever?
Yeah, I think the sooner it can be done, the more important it is. And don't just look at level 2. Right now, we're referring to level 2, but you should look at 3 and 4 as well, what the restrictions are. And contemplate things that are, you know, not required for survival. We don't want to, we want to make sure we have enough water that people can sustain themselves, but things that, you know, aren't related to people living and making it through a day. Those are the things that need to be considered.
I'll add that to the email that goes out with sections 1, 2, and 5. I'll add that section on the water so that you can look at that at the same time. And if there's any suggestions that we have before it goes out, we'll include that as an underline.
But that section will answer number 1 on Brett's memo, essentially.
So what,
And how you can restrict, say there's no pressure washing, but yet we don't want to eliminate the people that are doing work that requires pressure washing to do that, work.
It's a tough one, you know, I mean, you have to think of the big picture. You have to think of the economy. So much of our economy right now, especially with 2 bad winters. I mean, if it wasn't for construction revenue that we generate, we'd be in dire financial straits right now. Construction has saved us financially. But at the same time, you gotta think about, you know, if construction people are using water to mix cement or whatever, or in this case, the example brought before me was, you know, they build a deck and it's all dirty and whatever, and they pressure wash it before, so it's a good surface before they come in and put a stain on it. Well, if you can't pressure wash, can you do that? And does that mean construction has to stop because they're not gonna stain it with dirt on it?
Yes.
Those are tough questions.
I think the pressure washing uses, for what product that you get from pressure washing, you don't use all that much water.
But you gotta make the distinction between cosmetic
Correct.
and work.
Yeah.
So, and that's not made in the ordinance today. And so those are tough questions, and I think we need public input on those questions.
so does the car wash down here use village water?
So the car wash does use, it's on a semi-closed loop system. It has a filter and so they do have to add water to it periodically. I don't know the exact percentage. But the only way that got passed when it was built was that it be on this semi-closed loop system. So all the water drains off into a pit. Were you on the council?
50%.
50%, okay, I didn't know that. So, but even that could be restricted. I mean, I hate to pick on a business, but they're in the business of water and even though it's 50%, maybe that makes them a level 3 consideration instead of a level 2.
Right.
I don't know. That's the type of thing that you guys need to decide.
Were these restrictions kind of based on our water rights versus our tank levels?
No, water rights have nothing to do with restrictions.
So that, okay, so that's total separate. So our tank levels would be, because you've always got to have that fire suppression.
That's right. So basically, in our tanks, about 20% of our tank capacity is based on consumption. The other 80% is based on fire remediation. So, I mean, those are kind of rough numbers, but that's about the way we do it. For example, right now, tank 2 is totally empty. We had a leak in it we discovered last week. We had to drain it today in order to repair the leak, even put in a temporary repair. But there's still water in all the lines because the way our wells are designed, they kind of backfill each other for low usage, right? So in the middle of the day, nobody's using water. The system's able to sustain itself without pulling from a tank. Now, this evening at about 6 o'clock, that's gonna change. Because people get home, they start making dinner, they start taking showers and things like that. And there'll be more pressure on the system. But right now, tank 2, if we hook a fire hose up, and this covers where I live and where Chuck lives, and where Randy lives, if they put a fire hose on there right now, they got maybe a couple of minutes worth of water and they're done.
That's why there's so much air in the lines.
Well, we had 2 reasons why there was air in the lines. One of them is the Peralta well which is the reason we're on water restrictions right now. The Peralta well, if y'all aren't familiar or haven't heard this, if I'm being redundant, I apologize, but the Peralta well has operated fine for approximately 20 years. When it was originally dug, most of our wells are 800 to 1200 feet. Peralta well is only 260 feet deep because they hit bedrock. And once you drill down a well and you hit bedrock, you just don't drill anymore. You're not going to get any additional water into that well. So they stopped when they hit that. It was full. It had a static surface level of about 80 feet, which means from the top of the ground, 80 feet down, you hit the top of the water. The pump was set at 235 feet. So for 15 years, that was enough water for that Peralta well to be the primary well for the west side of the village. It was a primary. Well, with the snowpack conditions and the replenish rates have diminished so much over the last 2 years, the static level of that is now at 220 feet instead of 80 feet. So it's only 15 foot above the well, above the pump. And that's what was happening was it wasn't that the water level was dropping down to the pump level. What happens is when you turn those pumps on, it causes a rotation of the water in the beginning. It settles eventually, but that rotation of the water was close enough to the wellhead that it was sucking sucking air into the pump. And that's why our side of the village, we discovered, we had a lot of reports about air in the line. We couldn't figure out why. We thought maybe it was a leak somewhere. We called in specialists to do aerial surveys. We couldn't figure out, and come to find out it was that Peralta well was the primary cause. So that, when we realized that was the case, that's why we're on level 2 right now. It's not that the other 2 wells provide enough water for us to, sustain our tanks at their normal levels. And we can use Peralta as a kind of filler well. But we had to switch off of Peralta, and it's concerning because one of our wells is an aquifer well. It's doing fine. The aquifer hasn't been hit by the lack of snow. But the Peralta well and our new well, the other well that we have, we call it the new well. They're water table wells, so they're not actually in an aquifer. And so the water table in the soil is what feeds those wells. Well, our water table is down like, 120 feet. And so the new well hasn't been affected by this yet. It's still operating fine. But because the Peralta well was so shallow, it has been affected by it. And that's, the bottom line is we're going to have to drill a new well to get out of this, or the water table is going to need to increase about 50 feet.
And the Peralta well is located where?
On Peralta, it's up on the west side, I don't know how to.
High up, way up, back in the back of the village.
In the west side.
Yeah, right up at the very tippy top.
Yeah, almost to the backyard section. You can show.
I'm just pulling that up. I do have one question for you. Bulk water, who makes the call and we're selling it? Or it's being
If
used?
there's no call, it's available to be sold in our ordinance. There is no. Bulk water, people can come buy it and we have a rate. And so if people come to buy it, we sell it. To be honest, historically, bulk water is not for residents. Bulk water is for people who live in, outside the village in areas where they have houses where they don't have wells. And there's quite a few people that have the big tanks. They bring them in once a month, fill them up, and they're living out of water in the tank.
But there's not really any rules to it. Anybody could show up and try and buy it.
There's no rules.
Where's the filling station?
I'm sorry,
Where's that filling station?
at solid waste.
Okay. Return.
So there's a well, there's a fire hydrant right there by solid waste. It's metered. They come into there, they fill up their tank, and then they go up to solid waste and pay for it.
Okay. Just Pagosa, they have filling stations everywhere because they have so much, contamination in their water. So a lot of people live on purchased water. I would say over 50%.
Oh, because of the fires?
Is the chemicals that's in the water.
There's Peralta. Yeah, it's right here. That's Peralta Road on the west side.
Okay,
It's just
Yeah.
west of the lake.
yeah, it's not quite to the top. Yeah,
There's no,
No, it's way at the end of that, Peralta, there's a cul-de-sac type, it's not a cul-de-sac, but
At the end of
it's
it,
an
yeah.
offshoot off of Peralta.
yeah,
it's one of our utility service roads.
I think our trucks come from here.
Yeah.
Rather than going down.
Hmm.
Yeah. But that's its location.
Okay.
So it's at about, the Peralta well is at about the same elevation as the timeshares that are up there. Because you go down from the timeshares, but then when you go that service road, you go back up.
Hmm.
So sections 1, 2, 5, and water restrictions will be sent out to you through the village clerk. And then whatever feedback we can incorporate on the 17th to get to the council, for their next meeting.
Excellent. Okay.
You want to make that meeting earlier than 3 p.m. or?
Let's do, I think it would probably be wise to do that because it could take a little bit of time. I think if everybody does their legwork before we get here, it might really speed it up a little.
Or what time would you like to start it?
What's good for you guys?
Extra hour. Easy.
Yeah. 2 o'clock.
It's 2.
I get up from my nap at about 1:30.
Give you time to hydrate.
That's because you get up at 4 AM.
It's open before. Okay, so that meeting on the 25th is gonna be at 2 o'clock.
No, the 17th.
17th.
Or 17th, excuse me. The 25th is the meeting for
Yes, at 5:30.
the work meeting is on, so.
Thanks, Santos.
Won't be here. I used to do it all the time.
You can't,
Okay.
I can't. I'm leaving the next day and I've got firewood angels and a bunch of other stuff.
You're getting on the Angels.
Do you have any comments between now? Just send them out to us in an email.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my 3rd meeting already today. So,
Today.
Firewood Angels is full-time job.
Okay, so do we have any questions on where we're at? up to now.
So, yeah, there's no reason to go into my memo by any means, because we'll all be looking at what I wrote as well as what Santos has sent out and our own comments over the next few days. So those are just some ideas that I threw out there that for some of you can take into consideration.
Okay. So we have a work meeting on 17th. At 2, and now we need to schedule our regular meeting,
The next meeting should be on the 14th of September.
14th September. Yeah,
It's available.
okay. So do we have anything else that anybody or everybody feels that we need to have on our agenda for our next meeting? Okay, so guess we can get a motion closed.
Motion we adjourn.
No second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.